And Jesus had a very special way of teaching, I said, which was the use of parables or stories that were grounded in everyday experience that everybody could listen to and say, yes, I know that. I've had a dishonest person working for me. Yeah, I know that. But there was always something unexpected, something to turn the table, something to pull the rug out from under you, something that might just have you scratching your head. Added onto that, another method of teaching that he uses is, I think, probably more problematic to modern Western people. We don't get it as easily as other times and cultures did. And that is, he would hold up a morally inferior example of something. We like to hold up the best thing we can think of as an example. He would hold up a morally inferior one and use it in contradistinction to God. But remember when Jesus said, which one of you sinners, if your child came and asked for a piece of bread, would give them a scorpion? And the assumed answer is, well, none of us would. How much more will good God give to those who ask? And then remember there was the parable about the unjust judge. I often think of that one in connection with this one, where this guy was the judge. He didn't care about law or anything else, just lying in his pockets. But there was a poor widow who was seeking justice in her life, and she came to him, and he wasn't going to have anything to do with her. He couldn't be bothered. But she was so persistent, she nagged him so much. He said, oh, God, just to give her this woman, I'll give her justice. And God said, Jesus said, if the unjust judge hears the prayer of the woman and grants it because she's bothering him, how much more the completely just and all-loving God will do that. It's a different way to contrast and compare. And so today we get the story about the steward or the manager who is deceitful. He is squandering the property of his boss, and the boss gets word of it, and he's caught, and the boss doesn't know he's going to lose his job. So what does he do? He then quickly goes out and gathers up all of his boss's creditors. And he brings them and he says, okay, whatever it is you owe, just essentially give me what you want. Write 50% of it, write 80%, 20%, I don't care. Just write it in, I'll put it in the books as though you're completely paid off. And, he's cheating the guy again, but who cares? He already knows he's going to lose his job. And so it should be no surprise to us, or to anyone who heard the story, that this deceitful guy, he's going to do everything he can to save his hide. What is surprising, and in fact astonishing, is that the boss commends him for his shrewdness. And we think, would somebody, he was the one who was losing all the money. Would he actually commend him for doing that? Well, in real life, probably no. But this was a story to make a point. And the point had nothing to do with honesty and dishonesty. That's why we often get tripped up in hearing the story. It has nothing to do with honesty and dishonesty. It has to do with shrewdness. Shrewdness in the sense of clever and discerning assessment of a situation and a hard-headed acumen to do something about it. In other words, someone who is shrewd can see the reality of how things are and what needs to be done to make it the way I want it to be. And Jesus says this amazing indictment on those who are listening. He says the children of this age, and by that he meant the dishonest ones, the people who are out just for themselves. The children of this age are more shrewd in their dealings with their own generation than the children of light. And he sort of bemoans that fact. Why can't the children of light, the people that want to make a difference for good in the world, have that same clever, discerning assessment of reality and the hard-headed acumen to get something done about it. Why can't they use their power for good? And I was thinking about that, and a number of stories came to mind. One which was told to me by a parishioner of a friend of hers, who's a businessman, went on a walk through the woods with his daughter. And they were walking along, his daughter wanted to play a game, that they were surrounded by monsters who were going to come and eat them. And he said, okay. He said, so what's the plan? When we see some of these monsters, what are we going to do? And she said, oh, we're going to feed them. And he said, we're going to feed them? And she said, yeah, well, if we feed them, they won't want to eat us. And that's a little girl with shrewdness. But I was thinking about, the monsters in our lives. And we often want to fight fire with fire. And probably one of the easiest things in our minds to put in the monster category, ever since September 11th, 2001, is terrorism. I mean, this is something we lived with now for 2 decades. And I remember right after 9/11 happened, I was reading an op-ed piece that I cut out, and I have saved it all these years because it hit me so hard when I read it. I think it exemplifies what we're talking about. The columnist was saying, I don't think it was a column, I think it was just a person writing in, was suggesting that when we fight terrorism with violence and war, we're giving the terrorists exactly what they want. We have lost already because they want a holy war, and we've given it to them. But what if we didn't give them what they wanted? Was his thing. And he suggested that what would happen instead of spending $40 billion on military action right after that? That, he writes, suppose we bomb Afghanistan with butter, with rice, bread, clothing, and medicine. It will cost less than conventional arms, poses no threat of U.S. casualties, and just might get the populace thinking that maybe the Taliban don't have the answers. After 3 years of drought and with starvation looming, let's offer the Afghani people the vision of a new future, one that includes full stomachs. Bomb them with information, video players and cassettes of world leaders, particularly Islamic leaders, condemning terrorism. Carpet the country with magazines and newspapers showing the horror of terrorism committed by their, quote, guests. Blitz them with laptop computers and DVD players filled with perspective that is denied them by their government. Saturation bombing with hope will mean that some of it gets through. Send so much that the Taliban can't collect and hide it all. In responding to terrorism, we need to do something different, something unexpected, something that addresses the root of the problem. We need to take away the well of despair, ignorance, and brutality from which the Osama bin Ladens of the world water their gardens of terror. Now, we will never know how different the world would be 18 years later if we had done that, because we didn't. And maybe it's unrealistic. But it's certainly shrewd. It's that shrewdness that Jesus was talking about, thinking outside of the box, being as clever and discerning in an assessment of a situation and having hard-headed acumen to know how to make a difference about it. And we still have these children of light who are shrewd. I think of the teenage girl from Sweden is in the news all right now, leading the global movement to not only acknowledge climate change, but to actually get something done by governments to make a difference in it. And the other night I was watching on TV, they were interviewing her, and she's 16. And she said, and she sailed across the Atlantic to get here for this conference so that it would have a zero carbon effect rather than flying. She was asked, why do you think, we've been talking about climate change for a long time, why do you think so many people are resonating to you and you're making changes by people listening to you? And she said, well, I think that part of it is because when adults hear a child say, you are stealing my future from me, that it gives them a certain amount of guilt and makes them listen. Shrewdness? I think so. It's still there. We all have access to it. It's the devotion. And this is what Jesus was saying, that he wishes that the children of light will have as much devotion to seeing the ways of the realm of God brought to fruition as the deceitful and the terrorizing people have to bring ways of destruction. And so we are called to use our discernment and in assessing our cleverness and assessing all the situations of it, whether it's a global situation or a national situation or in our own lives. Using that to build our own lives of integrity. And then when our well-crafted and built life, just like the stewards, begins to crumble around us, to use our hard-headed human, not for how to save our hides, but in the ways of penitence and forgiveness and reconciliation. Jesus said that the children of this age are more shrewd in their dealings with this generation than are the children of the light. Let's do something about that.